What makes up the mindset of a successful business leader? Well, the new management communication course at the MBA program at NUS Business School talks about developing core executive skills, namely judgment, influence, communication. This course has been developed by Hsieh Tsun-yan. He's a gentleman with 30 years experience in consulting with McKinsey. He is currently a counselor to CEOs and to corporate boards, and he's also the founder of the LinHart Group, which is a leadership services firm. Thank you, Tsun-yan, for being here today.
Thank you.
Tsun-yan, the title of the course is Management Communication. How is this different from other areas of communication?
Management communication is a subset of business communication. So business communication could be selling a product or negotiating a contract. Managerial communication focuses much more between colleagues in a organizational setting where it is person to person. It is very much in the moment, which is never mind the preparation and so on. What actually happens as the conversation goes underway. It typically also happens under a big deal of pressure, as well as there's a premium of judgment. So it's really a subset of communication that makes or breaks relationship as well as getting things done.
Your course focuses on developing influential leadership. How do you define influential leadership?
Well, let's take apart those two words. Influence is the act or the power of being able to produce an effect without the use of force or relying on command. And leadership is causing things that otherwise would not have happened to go better, faster, or more consistently, or creating something new. So if you put those two words together, influential leadership is all about how to make things happen that would otherwise not have happened. And it is the most fundamental things that the people in business need to make happen, regardless of their level of seniority.
In your experience, what are some of the common misperceptions of what makes a successful leader?
Oh, there are a lot of mythology around, for example, right time, right place, as well as if I have done well, I will be promoted. Conditioned very much from early years in school, but that's not how reality works. Successful leaders are those who are able to really shape the destiny of that organization at that time and being able to get people excited to go after it together. We always start with the belief that there is already a leader in you. Our job is to raise that awareness, help you with the discovery of who that person is, your character, your values, your idiosyncrasies, whether you're introvert or extrovert. And that's all about, the person that's already there. And we try to unleash that.
One of the most difficult challenges that business leaders are faced with is having a difficult conversation. It may be in the context of corporate restructuring, some negative news that has to be discussed or shared. How do you approach difficult conversations?
Difficult conversation is par for the course in managing in business environment. The important thing is to do a little bit of planning beforehand and think about the outcomes that would you like in terms of how would you like the other party to think, feel, and do at the end of the meeting. Too many of our younger executives go out to the marketplace thinking that they have done their homework, they have done the analysis, and they are there with a structured communication like a PowerPoint and was going to assert that view, that position, that set of analysis. That is a no-no because that fails to account for the human dynamism and the interactivity of communication. The other person have views, have feelings, and have motivations that you may not have accounted for. Second thing is to be able to draw from the larger environment that the organization that person belongs to, what the situation is with regard to their performance pressure. What are the pressure points on that person that will impinge upon her attitude towards this particular interaction? And how can I take out of that a few judgments with respect to what will be the most critical things that I have to be absolutely clear about on joint stakes, for example, the shared interest between us, where the conflict might be, and what my position might be.
When you approach potentially difficult conversations with potentially a negative message, do you focus purely on the outcome that is desired, or do you also carrying a sort of a nurturing mindset?
So long as you think about both the outcome in terms of task and relationship. Task is that I have to, unfortunately, be the one to share with him the bad news or the not so pleasant outcome, information. The other side of this is, where would you like the relationship to be? If you want to be and have a nurturing relationship, for example, you say, I'm here for you. I really believe in you. I believe that you can do better than that. How might you say that? When would you say it that is believable and heartfelt? You see, so by planning that meeting a little bit, asking yourself those questions, most people are just kind of overwhelmed with the daunting feeling of having to confront a unpleasant, negative conversation, and not enough thought, even seconds of thought, given to what else do they like to see happen in the relationship.
We're talking about management communication, but of course, communication itself has changed so much with the advent of technology. Now we've got SMS, we've got the internet, emails, etc. Has this helped or hindered, or does it offer special new opportunities when it comes to management communication?
One thing that is going on is, while we're talking about SMSs and texting and so on, I think in the next 5 years we might see other forms of technology overtaking these. But as each one of these technology comes up, one of the things that it will not replace is the face-to-face conversation. Why? Because two-thirds of our communication is nonverbal. So in-person communication will never go away. However, that said, as new technologies such as tweeting and comes on stream, and social media, etc., it is a very important set of tools that actually demand its own principles. For example, in texting, a year ago I had a very good set of communication via the SMS with a chairman of a board of a very large company here. And I was wondering why he didn't just bother to pick up the phone and call me instead of texting. As it turns out, I learned a big lesson. And it is that with text, he can be as vague as he wants and as clear as he wants, and gives me time to ponder about what he is trying to say and what is not being said, right, before I respond to him. So it does serve its purpose. So the key here is not whether these things are detrimental, they are helpful to communication, but each one of them comes with its opportunity and constraint.
Another topic that your management communication course focuses on is judgment. And I wonder, is that something that you can actually teach? How do you approach this topic?
We know several things about judgment today that I did not know when I first started. First, judgment gets better with experience. You make more mistakes, you learn from them. You know which are the ones that work, and over time you trust your judgment, which brings me to the second point. Especially at the beginning of a young person's career, confidence is the biggest enemy. Oftentimes, when I work with a lot of younger associates, they got the first instinct correct. They were on the right track, but they talked themselves out of it because they were not confident. For example, I found out very early part of my career that I'm not so good with people judgment. Right? I fall in love with people too quickly and not questioning and evaluating. I'm far too, in today's language, accepting. Right? So with that in mind, I typically, when I'm trying to hire somebody, try to go with two other persons that could have participate in the same conversation, and then compare notes of what did you take away from the meeting? Would you trust this person? Why and why not? And to calibrate my own judgment and to ensure that my impulses are not misguided. Whereas on such things as problem solving and so on, I find that I'm very confident that my judgment tended to be spot on, and I'll rely on that more fully.
One catchphrase that you like to use is think, feel, do. So explain a little bit what you mean by this.
It is a very simple device that in our frenetic business activities, people rush from meeting to meeting and uh, did not give themselves a chance to even collect their thought regarding what they want to come up with. So having even a few minutes to gather the thoughts regarding those three things would be important. Let me say a few things about them. What would you like the other person to think? Do you want the other person to think that your position is final, or that you're pretty firm, but no good offers refused? You see, that could be a very big missed opportunity. And this is just a very simple point regarding negotiability. There's a whole lot of more things that are softer and oftentimes harder to repair. So being clear about what you want people to think at the end of the meeting, not just in terms of the task. I want to give her some performance feedback, but also what I want him to think on softer agenda or softer objectives like, am I supportive of you? Are very critical. Feel is very difficult because the very often times they say, oh, that especially men, they tend not to want to tread into that area. But feelings is what ultimately will govern the trusts, govern the confidence, govern the sense of security you want the other party or mutual parties to feel. And that is very important to really get a grip on. How do I like the other person to feel? The best people I work with have tough messages for the other party and have the other person come out feeling confident, feeling affirmed as an individual. And unless you sort of plan on doing that, you are going to be hit or miss. And with all this other baggage about communication across culture, across sex, you can see the ball can go anywhere. Finally, do. Especially for younger executives, they think the job is done by depositing their view, depositing their wonderful analysis, and they fail to ask themselves the simplest question: what would you want the other party to do coming out of this meeting? So they are often shocked that nothing happens afterwards, and they have to call another meeting to say, why has nothing happened? I thought it was very clear. Simple things like this seems to be quite alien to many people.
If you could boil it down to just two key points, what are the two main takeaways that you want students to take away from this course?
The first point is all about judgment and influence. If you made the wrong judgment about the situation, you can't define the objectives. And if you can't define the objectives in terms of what kind of outcomes you're looking for, you cannot exercise the right influence to achieve those outcomes. It's very important. So this is not about dressing well, writing well, making nice, beautiful charts. There's a place for those, but they are very small in relative importance to getting the judgment on what are the really critical issues that we are having to wrestle with, and selecting the right influence path to achieve an outcome that will be satisfying. The second point is really about practice. We mentioned the two critical ingredients for each business person to find his or her way to communicate effectively. One is the being, who you are as a person. The other one is doing. How do you go about achieving or executing a particular influence? The two goes hand in hand. They cannot be separated. So there is no canned solution to having, this is how you do a conversation. It has to be married to a greater awareness of the business person about who she is. And this course, we're here to help people discover both.
From your years of experience, from observation, what are some of the unique qualities that will predict whether or not a person will reach his or her pinnacle?
The first quality that I truly admire and see makes a huge difference is whether that person take charge of her own this destiny, as opposed to hoping that somebody else or something, some external events would do something that will propel them forward. Taking charge of their own career means having an inner sense of who you are, which you need to unleash. And unleashing that leader that's already in the person is a sight to behold. And at the end, we are talking about people who have the passion to be able to reach the pinnacle. And that it has to do more to do with drive, the drive to excel, the drive to make a difference, the drive to make a mark. Less to do with ambition, which has to do with making money, getting to the top job, getting to the highest and most shiniest companies. The difference is one, the word drive has much more to do with intrinsic reward of making a contribution, something that connects deeply and meaningfully to who you are.
Tsun-yan, thank you for a very enlightening conversation.
Thank you for having me.